What would you do if you lived in Brazil in the mid-1900s and met the nun that everyone had stories of? She was kind, she was generous, she was patient, she was caring, and she was a role model for countless children. Could you contain the excitement of meeting someone who had changed countless lives? Someone who rescued a dozen people from a burning bus? Someone who overcame every challenge just to help others. Howdy all, and welcome back to another episode of the Sanctified Podcast, the show where we explore the stories of various saints throughout history and learn about what they did and how we came to recognize them as saints today. Today, we're going to explore the life of Saint Dulce Pontes, a sister who broke the mold. Dulce Pontes was born in 1914 in Salvador, Bahia, Brazil, and she was actually baptized with the name Maria Rita de Souza Pontes. Her father, Augusto Lopes Pontes, was a fairly successful dental professor, so she really had a fairly fortunate upbringing overall. Her father was kind and a charitable man, but not so much as to make you feel like it's obvious that his daughter sought a religious life, but I'm sure it inspired her to. As a child, Maria was a huge fan of the local Ipiranga soccer team, and she kind of wanted to become a soccer player someday herself. But when she was 13, her aunt took her on a trip to the poor region of the city, and that experience changed her forever. During this trip, Maria's aunt invited some of the poor beggars into her own home and offered some help to them. She gave them shelter for a short while, she offered haircuts if they wanted it, and she gave them basic medical care if they needed anything. Maria was inspired, and she wanted to help to make a change too. She wasn't sure really where to begin though. But on kind of the opposite end of the spectrum, Maria's sister had a different reaction to seeing all of this. She was kind of repulsed by it and wanted nothing to do with it. She even felt like all of these poor beggars were going to chase away guys who would come trying to ask her to go out with them or marry them or something. So very, very different personalities between Maria and her sister. After Maria graduated from high school, she had a pretty unique request as a graduation gift. She asked for her father's support in her pursuit of becoming a holy sister. He agreed, and so Maria joined the Missionary Sisters of the Immaculate Conception of the Mother of God. Upon joining, she took the name Dulce in honor of her mother, Dulce Maria de Souza, who passed away when Maria was just 7 years old. After joining, Dulce was asked to teach geography to kids in the area, but her true desire was to help the poor in more ways than just teaching geography. She went above and beyond and would also teach kids in the streets basic reading and writing skills. And on her lunch breaks, she was known to seek out people to catechize them. She kind of became known as the Angel of Alegados, which was the community that she helped in most often. By the time she was just 22, she already founded the first Catholic workers organization in the region. Just a few years later, she even started her own school for workers and their children. All she ever wanted was to help people who couldn't afford more help or were too ashamed to seek it. Sister Dulce's reputation spread far and wide, and it really wasn't long before people came seeking her help. She didn't just have to go seeking people to help. They came to her. They knew how kind her heart was, and they knew that they could really count on her for help. And Sister Dulce was not ashamed to do whatever it took to help people. She even begged herself for food, medicine, shelter, anything that the less fortunate needed. At first, she found shelter for the poor people in abandoned buildings, but eventually other people came forward and made them leave. They demolished the buildings, they took it back, whatever. They just wanted all of the poor beggars gone. So she searched for another place, but they kind of kept encountering the same challenges at every spot they found. Finally, she asked her Mother Superior for help in finding shelter. Though the Mother Superior was a little reluctant at first because they just didn't have the space for it, they worked together and they formed a small, hostel sort of building for those in need. But it was in the convent's chicken yard, so probably didn't smell too great. But it was certainly better than nothing, and part of the conditions for building it was that Sister Dulce had to find something to do with all of the chickens that were out there. So she fed them to the people coming in. Easy enough solution, right? After some time, this hospital actually evolved into the Santo Antonio Hospital, and today it is a pretty big hospital that sees thousands of patients a day. And while all of that was going on, building the hostel and its evolution into a hospital, Sister Dulce took pharmacy classes so that she could be more helpful to those people in her care. And in her effort to always help those in need, she founded the Charitable Workers Foundation of Sister Dulce, and today that is one of the largest charitable organizations in Brazil. Through that charitable organization, she made nursing homes, a free clinic for those in need, and an orphanage. She was a very busy woman, helping teach those in need, giving medical care when she could, helping people find work, overseeing a charity, spending time with the orphans in her orphanage, and just so much else. And remember how she loved soccer? She would take time out of her day and go play soccer with the orphans whenever she could. So, in a way, her childhood dream of becoming a professional soccer player kind of came true, but in a different sort of way. Almost like it was meant to be that she would wind up being a, quote, professional soccer player, just not in the way she imagined as a child. But wait, there's more. It might be hard to imagine that this incredible woman could do even more, but she was a hero. One time, a bus crashed outside her convent. Sister Dulce did not hesitate to run outside and help. She smashed the window of the bus, which had caught fire at that time, and she then pulled a dozen passengers out through the bus window to safety. And I don't know if you know fires, smashing a window could be a dangerous thing, but if it's crashed and it's on fire, there's probably already smashed windows, so it probably wasn't too dangerous to smash it in addition, but I'm sure at the time, smashing the window was the least of her concerns. Eventually, life caught up to her. Whether it was just all the work that she did taking its toll, or just natural health problems that came up, she did suffer from pretty severe respiratory challenges. A doctor told her that her lungs were only operating at 30% of what they should. And she was not a strong and robust woman. She was kind of frail at the time. But she still lived 30 more years with only a third of her respiratory capacity. Her desire to help never dwindled. And even after discovering her respiratory challenges, she was still reported to go out and help people who needed help. She was seen picking people up and carrying them to her hospital if she came across somebody in need that was too weak to move themselves. Where did that strength come from? Like, carrying someone isn't an easy task, and to me, it kind of seems like she must have had some sort of divine help giving her the strength she needed when she needed it. And if you just saw her on the street, you wouldn't really think that she could do that. She just looked like a ordinary nun. She looked kind of weak, to be honest, because, again, she had health issues, and you would never expect that she'd be able to carry anybody for a few feet, let alone all the way back to her hospital from wherever she found them. By the end of her life, she had become one of the most famous women in Brazil. She even met with Pope John Paul II twice. Apparently, the president of Brazil even met with her and kissed her feet. Oh, and let's not forget that she was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize for all of her efforts by the president of Brazil, José Sarney, and Queen Sylvia of Sweden. But none of that mattered to Dulce as much as just helping anybody who needed help, no matter what it meant. Around 1990, her respiratory problems worsened, and she had to be hospitalized for a while. She was in the hospital for a total of 16 months until she passed away March 13th, 1992, when she was 77 years old. When she passed, the whole nation of Brazil was in mourning. She was buried at the Basilica of Our Lady of the Immaculate Conception, but on May 26, 2000, her body was transferred to the chapel of Santo Antonio Convent, but then again on June 9th, 2010, her body was moved to its final resting place at the Immaculada Conceição de Madre de Deus Church in Salvador, Bahia, her hometown. And sorry if I butchered that pronunciation, I'm not too familiar with Portuguese. And at the final movement to the church in her hometown, she was found remarkably well preserved, and it was determined that she was incorrupt. Even her clothes were perfectly preserved, despite the other movements that her body had gone through previously. Because of all she did, people kind of already considered her a saint. Like, she was definitely one of those people you would call a living saint. Obviously, you can't be a living saint. That goes against the definition of a saint. But the point is, people knew that she was going to be canonized. It was just a matter of time before those miracles were recognized. And the first miracle was recognized in first miracle occurred in 2001. Took a little while for it to be officially recognized. And what it was Claudia Cristina dos Santos had given birth to her second son. But there were complications. Claudia had to undergo 3 surgeries over 18 hours for hemorrhaging, but nothing helped. Doctors just kind of gave up. There really wasn't anything more they could do. They spent almost a full day trying to save her, and just nothing was working. So a priest came to Claudia, and he was going to give her her last rites, but for some reason, he just felt something telling him to start a prayer chain for Claudia, asking for the intercession of Sister Dulce. And then, without any warning, her hemorrhaging stopped, and she made a full recovery. Doctors were baffled. There was just no medical explanation for what they saw. But this miracle wasn't officially recognized until 2010, and even then, it wasn't until May 22nd, 2011, that Sister Dulce was formally beatified. They had to investigate the miracle and determine that it could only be explained through Dulce Pontes' intercession from heaven, and that takes some time, even though it kind of seemed obvious for anybody just glancing over it. And at her beatification mass, there were over 70,000 people present. That's quite a mass. Just a couple years later, in 2014, a man named Jose Mauricio Braganza Morera received a second miracle from Sister Dulce. And interestingly, Jose had actually met Sister Dulce when he was a child. Maybe that's why his prayers were answered so quickly. But in any event, he'd been blind for 14 years due to severe glaucoma that had begun in his youth. But then one day, he was suffering from a case of conjunctivitis. So he took a small statue of Blessed Dulce and he put it over his eyes. He prayed for healing from his discomfort. But, as Sister Dulce was known to do in life, she went above the call of duty and totally restored his vision. She didn't just get rid of the conjunctivitis, she restored his vision entirely. And so, on May 13th, 2019, the second miracle was approved, and then October 13th, just a few months later, she was canonized. She was Brazil's first female saint. She's the patron saint of Bahia, healthcare workers, hospital administrators, and social workers. Her feast day is August 13th, and you might be wondering why it isn't the day that she moved on, like most other saints, and that's because August 13th was the day she received the habit of a nun and devoted her life to her faith. If you have any questions on Saint Dulce, please let me know, and I'll do my best to answer them. So, what do you think of Saint Dulce Pontes? What are your thoughts on her generosity to those in need? I hope you found her story interesting, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts on Saint Dulce Pontes. Thanks for listening. If you would like to support the channel, you can subscribe, download the episode, like, comment, share with your friends, or send me a suggestion on a saint to check out by emailing me at sanctifiedpodcast@proton.me. You can find the show on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Podbean, and more. Just search for the Sanctified Podcast and you should find a few episodes. Take care and have a wonderful day.